Happy New Year, everyone, and welcome back to Here Be Dragons. I am your host, Stephen Stark, and I am joined by actually nobody right now. Um, it is what it is. Hi, I want to talk about the year that was and the year that's ahead. Some stuff that I really enjoyed watching this year, and of course, I would love to hear anything you guys have to say in the chat, as well as what I'm looking forward to in the year to come, and maybe an idea or two about doing something a little bit new, a little bit different. And just to you guys are my core supporters, the guys that are here every week, the ones that maybe not in the chat every week, but I know there's a significant number of people who will watch this on their Monday morning commute or something like that. And I'd love to hear from y'all as well about some of the ideas for future stuff that I'm going to put out there. I did not plan on streaming alone today. It just happened that way. But yeah, we're gonna do this, I guess. I always like to stream with a partner because it means I only have to talk half as much. But here we go. I'm not Nessie, my normal co-host, is working right now, and I'm not sure where John is, but he's got a lot on his plate lately. So, like, I love you, buddy. I hope you're okay. But other than that, yeah. So I'm going to talk about a couple of different things. Like maybe the best TV show, or not best, my favorite TV show of the year, and then also maybe like what I watched this year that didn't come out this year that I loved, television and films, and then some stuff I'm really looking forward to. And I really kind of want to hear what everybody else has to say about like your favorites as well. And I'll just kick it off with my favorite movie that came out last year, 2022. My favorite film of 2022. And it's probably not going to be too surprising to most of you to hear that it is Everything, Everywhere, All at Once. I That film spoke to me on a level that's really difficult to articulate because it articulated my inner struggle so clearly to me. Um, I really want to be Wayman. Sometimes I'm Joe Butapaki, and if you've seen that film and understand it, like you get what I'm saying with that. It doesn't hurt that it's hilarious. That one of my favorite actresses, Michelle Yeoh, has an opportunity to really uh, flex in that film to do a lot of different. She has to deliver a lot of different emotions. Um, I love everything about that movie. It's so ridiculous and stupid while being so smart and poignant. Yeah, I don't know. How does everybody else feel? Do you guys like that movie? For those of you that seen it, I know there's one person, one friend of mine, who distinctly disliked that film. I'm not going to call you out. That's okay. But um, I just curious for those of you that have seen it, if you would want to share in the chat, what did you think of that movie? Because yeah, so Danny McKay says 10 out of 10. Guilty Undertaker says great film. For me, it is like the number one spot of films of 2022. I've seen a few 2022 films, not a whole bunch. You guys know me. I'm gonna lean towards stuff that has like dragons and spaceships in it or whatever. Um, but yeah, there's it takes the top spot just because of how thoughtful it is, and I also love that it gave real characters to non-white actors, and it was a really fantastic sort of lens into the microcosm of an immigrant family against the backdrop of ridiculous multiverse shenanigans, which, the juxtaposition of those two ideas really spoke to me. I don't know. I loved it. Um, what movie? I'm talking about Everything, Everywhere, All at Once. Best film of 2022 to me. If you haven't seen it, grab a box of tissues and be prepared to laugh till your stomach hurts. Yeah. But excuse me. That's another reason why I like having a co-host, is that when I need to drink something, they can fill in the debt right now. Unless he wants to jump on with me. If you do, let me know. I'll send you a link, and you can tell me what your favorite stuff was. But I also just recently watched a film that didn't come out in 2022, but that is quite good, and that was Knives Out. I really thoroughly enjoyed that movie as a subversion of the murder thriller whodunit. Yes, Ke Kwan plays Waymond in that film and should be nominated for Best Actor or Best Supporting Actor from Everything Everywhere All at Once. I agree. And yeah, he had a couple of roles as a child actor, notably Short Round in Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom and Data in The Goonies, and then couldn't get good parts. So he stopped acting. Danny, I'll get to that. I want to focus on the film Knives Out, which I only just recently watched. So I watched it in 2022. It came out originally in 2019. But when there was buzz for a sequel, and you hear people talk, just through the grapevine, you hear that it's good. And I watched it, and it really did make a believer out of me about why it received the critical praise it did. It's an over the top murder mystery story, but it really subverts a lot of tropes. Daniel Craig doing a Foghorn Leghorn impersonation is hilarious. And he kind of nails it. He can do a Southern drawl accent pretty convincingly, if not a bit over the top. But he managed to deliver a really fun and charming character. Ana de Armas is asked to do a lot of heavy lifting, acting wise, and holy crap, does she nail it! Like, to me, she's the best part of the film. Not that its star-studded cast doesn't deliver in what they're doing, but they don't have the heavy lifting to do acting wise that Ana de Armas does. But when you have Don Johnson and come on, brain, Jamie Lee Curtis and Christopher Plummer, and I can't even name everybody. It's a star-studded cast. They all bring it. They all are doing a great job. But Ana de Armas really does deliver the emotional core of that film. So if you haven't seen it, it subverts the trope of most whodunits, and I won't spoil anything per se, but one of the big tropes it subverts is it reveals fairly early on who the killer is, and at that point, it becomes less of a whodunit and more of a about thinking about the motivations of why it happened and why anyway, I can't, it's difficult to talk about with spoiling it too much, but if you haven't seen the film, you should get out there and watch it as soon as you can. It doesn't have a dragon or a spaceship or a wizard in it, so it took me a little while to get to it, but getting to it was well worth it once I did. I think John might be joining us soon. I think I just saw a message from him. Did. Okay, he's probably on his way. Hopefully. We like John. So, yeah. I don't know that I have as much to say about that film other than I watched it. I really, really liked it. It's probably my favorite film I watched favorite film I watched in 2022 that wasn't from 2022. Yeah, really, really good stuff. Now, I am going to do this. Since Danny brought it up, and this is something I can go on and on and on about, and will, it's Arcane. Arcane it came out technically in 2021, at the tail end of 2021, but I watched it in 2022, and it is probably my favorite thing I actually watched all year. No matter the year it came out, Arcane on Netflix was probably my favorite show that I saw in 2022. It feels like a masterpiece on almost every level. Mathieu is agreeing that Arcane is amazing. It is an animated show that is unlike any animation you've seen. The closest thing I can think of is Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse was doing a lot of really interesting new things with animation. Arcane is doing interesting new things with animation as well. Not the same exact type of things, but interesting new things that make it visually breathtaking. You've got every bit of sound design, every line of voice acting, character designs, everything comes together in that show. And it is like, I feel like it's the type of thing. Do you remember when we were deep, deep, deep in the Expanse and we would do like whole streams about individual characters from the Expanse because I was so in love with that show. I feel like Arcane is a show that I could do that with. So, excuse me. Arcane is a video game adaptation that's actually good. Arcane is not really a video game adaptation per se. It is based on a video game in the loosest sense. The game League of Legends has no narrative. It is a arena battling game. The characters fight each other. There is written lore, but there is no story to the game. But this show is an amazing story first, and then we'll say it pays homage to the game characters because the characters in the story are characters from the game, but it does not feel like a video game adaptation. It feels like the animated backstory of characters that grow up to fight in an arena battle. And it is good not just in its beauty and its voice acting and its character design and its music and its sound design, but it's also fantastic in its narrative, which is something that almost every video game adaptation falls flat on, is that it is a story about two sisters struggling to reconnect after experiencing some pretty significant trauma, as well as set against the backdrop of a class war story and the things that these characters have to do to survive, and the well-intentioned people on the right side of the tracks, air quotes, that continue to feed the problem because of their desire, or because of the blind eye they turn, or the fact that they don't delve deep into the root causes of class divide and how that breeds resentment. Like, it is not a good video game adaptation. It is a masterpiece of storytelling that everyone should watch. That's what I'm going to say. It is one of the best things I've ever seen. You guys know how I love things like Avatar: The Last Airbender. I think it's hard to say that it's better than Avatar: The Last Airbender because that is a completed story that ended very well and beautifully, and it was great from start to finish. Arcane has had one season, but the first season of Arcane is better than the first season of Avatar: The Last Airbender. It will make you cry. It will break your heart. We're all fans of Game of Thrones here. That's like what brought us together to begin with, most of us anyway. So we're used to being emotionally abused by our stories. Arcane has got your back in that category. So be warned for that. Yeah. Matthew says to explain that animation isn't just for kids. Yeah, I don't have a problem with cartoons. People are like, I don't have a problem with cartoons being made for children. Like, you're allowed to like what you like. If you want to go to the movie theater because a new Puss in Boots movie came out, and that's fine. Go do that. Enjoy it. I hope it's good. But yeah, even you're not wrong mentioning it in the same. And I don't say it lightly. Arcane really did shock the world with how good it was. And look who it is. You know what, buddy? You look well rested. How you doing?
I'm doing all right. Yeah, there's no way around this. I did not sleep well last night, and apparently I fell asleep.
It's all right, man. Like I was like, well, here we go. But like, thank God you're here. So I have just mentioned a few of the things. So I started with, and you know what, John? Oh, by the way, hi everybody. That's John. You know him. So John, I've talked about my favorite film that came out this year, which was Everything Everywhere All at Once. For those who have joined,
which is, there's hilarious irony there because
hold on. I'm just doing a quick recap to bring you up to speed, and then I'm going to let you go. Okay. So I mentioned Everything Everywhere All at Once as the film from 2022 that I liked the best. The film that came out before 2022 that I watched last year that I liked the best was Knives Out. I was pleasantly surprised by that film, and I was like, okay, this deserves a mention. I know it came out a few years ago, but it was really great. And then I was just vomiting about how amazing Arcane is.
So no, I was going to say there is great irony in the fact that. Oh wait.
Yeah.
I've been having issues with my camera. Not so much with the camera, but with the connection to the computer. There we go. I'm just not going to go near the plug. No, there's great irony in the fact that I once again missed out on you talking about Everything Everywhere All at Once because I had to miss that stream where you talked about them. So there we go again.
Well, you know what? Now is a great opportunity for you to talk about it.
Yeah, no, that was. I don't know if it was a surprise or not, because I had heard great things about the movie. But you know what it was? When it first came out, I was a little apprehensive because I remember seeing the preview, and it was really during the height of the multiverse, craze with Marvel, and it just felt like multiverse this, multiverse that, and it was a little bit overkill. And so I was like, now even these, like independent films are doing it. Yeah. But you know what? Then I saw the movie and I was like, but this is a great film.
It is.
And it's about like so much.
It's
more.
Yes. Yeah. It's about human experience at the core of it. By the way, can we just say hi, Aaron? Hopefully Paul is there as well. Hi, Paul. Theoretically, this is the first time that I am certain somebody is watching the stream from New Zealand. This is the first
And
time that I can be
I am so
sure of that.
even though there is no way, shape, or form I could have managed the trip, I'm really jealous because
Well, we're all jealous, but like,
yeah, well, because originally Aaron and I had talked about, me going on this trip,
Yeah.
and unfortunately, due to a number of factors, like I don't have the money right now, but B, also lots of personal issues, so it just wouldn't have been the right time. So now I'm just going to sit here and be so happy for Erin that she is, I'm sure, having the time of her life.
Yeah.
And I cannot wait to see those pictures.
Yeah. See, that's the thing. Like, we get the first look at the pictures as her friends, so
yeah,
because they'll pop up in our Slack group, I'm sure. They better. I'm just saying.
Something else I want to mention, like, and I go on and on and on about how I try not to care about awards, and we all have an acknowledgement that they don't, at the end of the day, they don't mean anything with regards to merit or anything. But at the same time, like, maybe you remember the actor's name. I'd have to pull it up.
I know the actors. If you're talking about Everything Everywhere All at Once, I know every actor's name. Yes.
Who plays the husband?
Yeah, Ke Kwan.
Yeah.
Or already lauded him before you got on the stream.
Okay, yeah. As many like as I only, and I didn't even realize that I knew him as this. I think I had to read that it was, Short Round from Indiana Jones, and just, and that's reaching back to my childhood. So I just feel like so happy for him that like, and he's so phenomenal in the role.
Yeah, because what a role to sink your teeth into, coming back to acting after 30 years.
And it does look like he's geared up to win Best Supporting Actor this year. And no matter how cynical I am about all that, like, it's going to be a joy to watch him get up on stage and, and
nice try, pal. Nice try, pal.
Here's the thing, and like, I've actually decided to go into this year, like, this is not an announcement because I don't have plans set in stone, but I very much want to start my channel back up this year. And I'm sorry, but I'm doubling down on my positivity for the channel, because I've decided that I don't like, I absolutely do not want to waste any time like being negative on stuff that I don't care for.
Right.
I want to immerse myself in like the joy of stuff that I love, and so that is what my channel is always going to be about. And I think
that's what we do here too. Like, I'm happy to point out flaws, but I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time talking about something that I don't care about or actively dislike. So yeah, agreed. Everything Everywhere All at Once. Michelle Yeoh, phenomenal in it.
Oh God, yeah. And you know what I just watched about a month or so ago, or maybe it was a couple months. The past couple months have been hazy, but I watched Super Cop 3.
Oh my God!
Or Super Cop. It's Police Story 3.
The motorcycle onto the train,
and that was the first time I ever saw her in anything, and it just made me realize that I've been on this really long journey with her, and so it's so great to see her get a meaty role like this, that she can sink her teeth into, and she's so fantastic. And it's funny because, from the outside, this movie should be ridiculous, and in many ways it is,
and it's okay.
Yeah, but it's so good. It's so good.
Yeah. Watch Super Cop. It's Jackie Chan. It's Hong Kong Jackie Chan. He is quoted as saying early in his career, I doubt he would repeat these words today, and he's actively not that guy anymore. But at one point, he was quoted as saying, women shouldn't do stunts except Michelle Yeoh.
Yeah,
which
and I like understand
pretty
what he was going
misogynistic, but
for.
like at
It's
the
not
same time, it's really high praise.
yeah, it's not a
And it's not, and it's, I'm certain it's like one of those, like, it was a dominant mindset of the era
yeah.
and he has grown. So, like, because everybody talks
Um,
about how genuine and yeah, but like,
and it's
that's how
funny
good she is.
because I actually did some reading up on like, and I'm sure, and this is not a unique phenomenon, but I went back and I remembered that for Super Cop she was credited as Michelle Khan,
Mm.
and there was this whole thing about her name, and you know, a couple years later she was like, no, I'm going with Michelle Yeoh, and because I remember seeing the advertisements for Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, and I was like, the name's different, but I know her and she's awesome. But yeah, so yeah, I have such high praise for the film.
South London Reseller says Michelle is great in Crouching
Yeah.
Tiger, Hidden Dragon, and you are right. That's the first film where I became aware of her. I saw Super Cop after that, but you know, it is. I keep like I said it when you started your channel, when you talked about this film, I wanted to be there, and you still haven't done it yet. So, like, hey,
I know it
when you
was
come
actually
back, like, there's something on the list right there.
I had it actually waiting in the wings as a suggestion for this weekend.
Like
Yeah,
emergency backup.
yeah.
I got you.
But I'm glad we're doing this, and we'll and I'll make that a priority when I start up a John Webster film again, and we'll do that, and we'll see if I can lure AR onto that stream as well, because I know she loves that film also.
Yeah, it's one of my favorites.
But it's funny because like as amazing as Everything Everywhere all at Once is, it's only like one of my top films of the year. There were some really good movies this year.
Yeah. And we'll have opportunity to talk about that.
Okay.
What was your favorite? So, do you agree that was your favorite film of 2022? Or do you have a favorite film? Is it something else?
I do. It's not that, but I don't want that to diminish like the praise I'm heaping on it.
You're allowed to like what you like. Go ahead. So, what was then your favorite film of 2022?
I think when it all comes down to it, it is probably, and I know you haven't seen this film. I'm not even sure if it would be your type of movie, but The Northman was my favorite. It's very like, it starts off very Conan the Barbarian and then goes off into a really bizarre, wild direction.
Okay. I might like that a lot. You are correct in that I have not seen it. I know that you guys have talked about it a little bit.
Yeah, and so, and for me, the movie just feels like less like a film from 2022 and more like this like epic piece of myth. And you just listen to the dialogue and it's like you almost feel like it's been it's been ripped verbatim from the pages of some old myth. And
I just googled it and there is a huge bell curve of like on the ratings. There's a lot of 5s, there's a lot of 1s.
Oh yeah, if it's not your type of movie, you'll hate it.
Yeah.
But it's, I mean, that's me. I've been getting very into movies that have more extreme reactions. It was the same last year with The Green Knight. If that's your thing, you'll love it. If not, then you're just like,
honestly, those are hit or miss for me. But I guess it's like sometimes those hit or miss movies really hit harder than other films do.
Yeah, I do want to make sure that, because I feel like there was a movie that I was kind of that was kind of tied with that, but maybe it's the fact that I just woke up for a nap and my brain isn't working yet. But I do want to make sure that I hit everything. The other big one for me that comes pretty close was the Batman, which
okay.
I just adored. For me, like I don't want to turn this into like a DC versus Marvel, or or even Marvel talk
Right. We don't need to go down that road.
and all that. But like the Batman is the type of comic book movie that in at this point in my life that I just feed off of.
Right.
Because it's like dark and gritty, it's dramatic, it's it's got things to really say about society, and the performances are just out of this world. I love Michael Giacchino's score. It's so pulse pounding and stressful. So yeah, that was a big thing for me. And I'll just list off the other ones that were
honorable mentions real quick.
That were top for me. I really did love Top Gun Maverick, which was like popcorn cinema, like at its best for me. I got to see that in the cinema on a really big screen, and so that was fun. And the other big movie that I love, which I just recently got to see a couple weeks ago, which I've been talking about, is The Banshees of Inisherin with Colin Farrell and Brendan Gleeson, where they play lifelong friends who all of a sudden Brendan Gleeson's character says one day, I don't want to be friends with you anymore. I don't like you. And like the whole film is just this tragedy that like the things, fall out because of that. And it's this great, like it's drama, but it's also dark comedy. It's a beautiful film, so I recommend that as well.
That sounds like the kind of film that will scar me.
So yeah,
maybe not. So maybe not for me.
It's not the happiest, as I will say.
Yeah, like I can take that, but the idea of somebody being like, "I don't like you anymore. I don't want to be your friend," is terrifying.
Yeah, I was feeling those very things. I was like, "Oh my god, this is my fear."
Might be bridge too far for this kid, at least right now.
Yeah.
AR has a really great question. What is your biggest hope for 2023? Now, there's two questions here, okay? And one of them can be like, we do a show where we talk about nerd stuff. What's our biggest hope for that? But like, I kind of hope 2023 in the broader sense is the year I need to break out in some way. I've built a really great group of people around me, and I need to let that propel me forward onto the next big good thing in my life,
Mm-hmm.
Whatever that is. I don't know what that is. Maybe with my friends' help, we'll figure it out. Like, there's a joke in our Slack group that gets brought up every once in a while about forming a commune, But I have decided I don't want to form a commune. I want to go into business and have a gaming pub. Because that sounds like it would be amazing. So if you are an investor and you want to invest in HBD Here Be Dragons, the gaming pub, let me know.
Well, it's funny that like you've sprung onto
like we3dragons@gmail.com.
That you've sprung onto this notion about like moving on like to the next big thing right after I talked about the movie The Banshees of Inisherin, because, and I'm not giving anything away because it's in the trailer, but like, even in the trailer, it's implied that one of the reasons that Brendan Gleeson's character says he doesn't want to be friends with Colin Farrell anymore is because like it's getting later in his life and he feels like he needs to focus on certain things in his life and he doesn't have time for his friends. So just don't leave us behind, Steve.
No. Like, that's not the thing. I'm not trying to move on. I'm trying to move forward. And I'm going to be honest. 2022 wasn't great for Steven in a lot of ways. Not great for
Yeah.
John in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Like we both had our big difficulties last year, and January 1st is a very it is New Year's because a long time ago somebody decided it was where the calendar starts. It's very arbitrary, but at the same time, in the psychology of humans, it's a new start, and it's nice to want to face it with the idea of a fresh start moving forward. You and I, John, we both had our difficulties last year, but you know what? That's last year now. You know what I mean? And of course, it's going to continue to affect us and all of our friends and whatever. But like, it does feel like maybe like my feet are in the starting blocks.
Yeah, and I did not want to get into like, sobbing and all that for this stream. But I will just say that even though, like, you're right, it's weird. Like, the turning of a calendar page should not.
It doesn't mean anything.
It doesn't mean anything. But I did like, and maybe it's only temporary, but I woke up this morning and I did feel like good because like symbolically it does allow you to turn a page and not like, and like you said, it's not that stuff doesn't affect you. I'm still hurting, but like the year that contained all the awful, terrible stuff, it's like I can push it aside now and I can focus on this new start. And
right. Like humans want to assign meaning to things. It's just part of, but we are evolutionarily programmed to want to assign meaning to things.
Yeah.
And if that meaning helps you move forward, all the better.
Yeah, and so like 2023, what am I hoping? I wrote this. I think I wrote it on Twitter. And again, sorry for the like, sad feels, but like, I want to hurt less in 2023. Yeah. Like that's my hope. And which is, and I don't want to paint the picture because I do worry that like I can't help but go on about like how much hurt I have felt, that I felt last year. But at the same time, I don't want that to diminish the moments of joy that I had because there were many.
Look, if you want to talk about things that happened within the last 365 days, I have 2 gatherings of friends that were some of the most amazing times of my entire life. I'm not going to kid you. And some of the people in the chat right now were there, including Christine and Laura and Julie, and maybe not anybody else that's in there right now, but there were a lot of people there. A lot of the other regulars were there, and we had an amazing time. And then we had Ice and Fire Con in April.
Yeah, I stand by the fact that like even in a year that was, and I've said it, 2022 will go down as the worst year of my life.
Yeah.
There's no competition, but Ice and Fire Con was the best weekend of my life.
Right.
So, there were moments of joy definitely to be found.
Even though it started with me murdering your orange juice.
This is
still
true.
Turned out to be the greatest weekend of your life.
Because, and I'm not saying anything that I haven't said before, but like, man, I got to party, me.
And you know what? You were partying.
Yeah. And, if you could see like a film roll of, my youth going like to high school and college, it's like that guy, party. No.
It was. Here's the thing. the end of the year was rough on both of us. The first half of the year, not too bad. The second half was pretty rough for us both. But
Well,
but,
I mean,
but we got love for each other. We got a lot of love from the people who are our support group. You know, a lot of them are in the chat right now, and that's a lovely thing. I don't want this to turn into that conversation. So I'm going to answer the other half of AR's question, which was which I interpreted as, what thing are we looking forward to in 2023 that that we might talk about on Here Be Dragons? And I actually have a couple of responses to that. But John, do you want to go first? What are you? Is there something you're really looking forward to?
God, like, I haven't even like thought that much about what's even coming out next year. Like, I know as far as like my mind always goes to Star Wars. So I'm like, I know Ahsoka is coming out later in the year, so that's going to be a lot of fun. You know, and we've got like, you know, a lot of shows are going to be on hiatus next year because they're big productions and they take a while to film. So, shoot. It's tough to think about. It really is.
Okay, well,
why don't you go first?
Yeah, I kind of threw you under the bus a little bit. So something coming up soon that I'm actually very excited for is season 2 of The Legend of Vox Machina. I really liked season 1 a lot. It's definitely a top 5 show of last year. Probably top 3 show of last year. But yeah, season 2 is coming out pretty soon. Yeah, there you go. Exactly. Legend of Vox Machina, season 2. I think it comes out sometime in January even. So it's not that far away. And I thoroughly enjoyed the first season. It is a ridiculous fantasy story. It's an interpretation of a Dungeons and Dragons game that is played by, like, it's the animated interpretation of the actual Dungeons and Dragons table game played by this group of voice actors. Like, they just played the game and then they started live streaming the game, and then years later they went back and made an animated show out of it, which is The Legend of Vox Machina, and it is quite funny and ridiculous and most decidedly not for children. Don't let the animation fool you. It's good, but it's good, and I am really looking forward to that.
I have kept like trying to make time for season 1 because even though, you know, I'm obviously not that, you know, as into Dungeons and Dragons as you are and as a lot of people are, but I love like fantasy stuff. I love like animated stuff that's not just catered towards children, that's for adults. And so it seems like the type of thing that I would really get into. It's just about making the time for it.
Right. Yeah. And like I know your tastes, John. In general, I think I do. I think when you watch it, you'll come out of it going, that was fun, not blown away.
Okay.
I think I am kind of, but it's because I'm like, that's a ranger who rolled a 1 on their animal handling, or like, ooh, I know what that spell is. You know, so like I have that level of involvement in the game and in the lore, and to kind of understand the mechanics of what's happening behind the scenes. But beyond that, it's still a fun story with good, interesting characters and professional voice actors. There is no other show where every one of these 7 main characters in an ensemble cast was birthed by the actor playing them. It always comes from a writer imagining the character and then an actor taking that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's not what Vox Machina was. Like, yes, when they go to animating it, they re-record lines that in a booth, sometimes with different inflection, but a lot of times that dialogue in the show is dialogue that's pulled from a live stream that they were ad-libbing in the moment in the voice of a character that they made up to play D&D with, which is not something any other show that I can think of has ever done. So it's fun on that level. But it also means that the 7 main voice actors, they've been doing animation their whole lives and video games their whole lives, and they're really good at their craft, but they don't get to originate things, birth things like they do with these characters. So they're all incredibly passionate and devoted to making it the best possible, which I think they nailed. So yeah, Legend of Vox Machina coming soon. Really looking forward to that one.
I'll stay in the animation vein and say that one of the things that I have been really looking forward to for a while now, and it's coming this year, is X-Men 97 on Disney Plus, which will be a continuation of X-Men the animated series from the 90s. And this is where my love of Marvel really is, with X-Men, and I grew up on X-Men the animated series, and it I'm just going to be, hopefully it's good, but provided that it's good, I'm gonna be a kid in the candy store. I'm just gonna be over the moon, and I'll be annoying all you guys, and you'll be like, man, I wish John would go back to being lukewarm about Marvel. So that's gonna be great. I'm looking forward to, in just a couple days, the season 2 premiere of Star Wars: The Bad Batch.
Okay.
Which we still have to do a stream on season 1. So
yeah, too. Yeah, it's definitely on my list. It's one of those things that we will get to eventually.
Yeah.
Bad Batch season 2 is coming soon, though.
Yeah.
As well as X-Men 97, which I missed X-Men 97. I was, my first child was born in 1997. I did not have a lot of time to be watching anything on television. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I missed the boat. I know that it's a good show. I know that it is. But it does not have any nostalgia for me. So, but yeah, I might watch the new one, especially if I'm told these are really good. You should watch them, because it will be a relevant thing to talk about.
Yeah, no, it'll be interesting to see, because they do have to ride that line between, really giving something that's going to tickle those nostalgia feels, but it also has to be a really good show for people who are coming to it who haven't seen, the show from the 90s. So yeah, but for me, I grew up, in the 90s, watching, X-Men the animated series, Batman the animated series, which I don't think you've seen that one either, right?
I have not. They just hit in that time where it's I graduated high school in 1994. I went straight to the Army, and I got out of the Army, and within a few months I started having kids.
I will say that
there's a whole section of the mid 90s media that's not music that I just missed.
I will say, Batman the animated series is the one that I feel even for adults coming to it fresh without any nostalgia, that's the one that you can watch and you're like, I get it. I get why this is so good and so loved. So I recommend that. As a matter of fact, that factored into part of why I really enjoyed the Batman this year, because I felt even from seeing the trailers, that chemistry between Batman and Catwoman was a big part of Batman the animated series, and that sort of, their enemies sort of, but they've got this, flirtatious chemistry, and it's that was a key part of the show, and I feel like they carried that over to this movie. So yeah, So
Yeah.
this is just a general, like, me going up, but like 90s animation, it was a fun time.
I am fully willing to nod that it was probably great.
Yeah.
Too many people have told me it's great for me to think otherwise. But at the same time, I did not have the time to do any of that for a good while, Certainly not a series that I had to show up at the right time to watch it on TV. Because
Yeah.
it's pre-streaming and all that, like, there was no way. There was just no way. Not while I was in the Army, not while I had young children.
Yeah. And as far as movies that I'm looking forward to next year, the first one is a bit of a cheat because it's technically a movie from this year. So I may end up adding it to like my top films list. There's a movie. It's a drama. It's with Cate Blanchett called Tar, which is she's a film composer. Well, she's not a film. She's a composer, and she does like film.
I'm aware of the film, and I want to see it as well. Cate Blanchett is one of those actors that can pull me in almost no matter what she does.
Yeah,
like you tell me she's in the movie, and I'm like, well, okay, there's no dragon and there's no spaceship, but there is Cate Blanchett, so.
But it does look like one of those movies that's a bit offbeat and unusual. So I've been waiting for the rental to become available because I don't, there's never the guarantee with these things that, it'll be the movie. But, it's a movie about composing, so I'll probably love it.
I think it's more a movie about a terrible person. But
yeah. But music plays a big part in it. So I'll rent it, and then if I go crazy for it, I'll probably just go ahead and buy it. The other movie I'm looking forward to comes at the end of the year, which is Dune Part 2.
Yeah. I think a lot of us are looking forward to Dune. We'll pick up on that. Before we go to the mid-roll, one other thing that I mentioned and gave a lot of love to that I don't think you've seen yet is Arcane on Netflix. I don't think you've watched that yet, have you?
No, and I'll like, oh my God, the irony here is never ending because you are going to mercilessly take me to task for this and for good reason. But I have watched about the first 10 minutes and it wasn't pulling me in, but I will try it again. And at least like get an episode into it and see if it's for me.
I got you. I was hooked almost from the first needle drop, like the opening sequence where there's no spoken dialogue. There's like one character singing. There's some diegetic music for a pretty violent conflict going on. I was sucked in by that because I thought it was cinematically beautiful. But
you know what I think, and this isn't right of me, especially because I love animation so much. It's kind of weird that I felt this way, but I think because I know that it's like, and I know the storyline isn't from the game, but the fact that it originates from a game and the animation style kind of almost makes it look like it's, like the story portions of a video game kind of. And so I kind of went into it with, I feel like I went into it with a bias that just because I'm not into video games.
If you just forget that it's a video game, anything, and just watch it, I think you will have an easier time. Like, I don't know the first damn thing about League of Legends. Not really. I've seen a little bit of gameplay. It's a top-down view, and you're clicking to tell your hero where to go, and you're clicking 5 to do your ultimate blast to take out a mob of guys, and it's like it's just an arena battle,
Yeah.
The show is not about arena battles. The show is about class divide, about the difficulties that trauma places on relationships. It's really actually an excellent story. So
It's so funny because the only reason I probably even know that it's a video game is thanks to the Friendship Onion, Billy Boyd and Dominic Monaghan's podcast, because they play League of Legends, and so they always have what they call the League of Legends update, which is where it's this ongoing struggle to get Elijah Wood and Sean Astin to play with them. And so they started like doing like this bit where they do like, you know how like on newscast, not on newscast, but like on sportscasts and stuff, like when they go onto a certain topic, there'll be this really like intense intro with music, like and stuff. And so every time they're like, all right, time for a League of Legends update, and they do like this musical bit where they're like, League of Legends. And so like that's what I know about the game.
yeah, again, forget everything. You don't need to know anything about the game to watch the show and love it. I love it. I don't know anything about the game. I've watched enough like reviews and talks about it to understand that if you do know the game, it's one of those things where it's like, I recognize that. Oh, that's a nice Easter egg. And that's great. But you don't need that to enjoy it. Yeah, it's really good. Arcane is just, it really has really got me. Mathieu also brings up The Last of Us, which is coming out soon, with Pedro Pascal and Bella Ramsey, which the thing that drove The Last of Us was the story. There was definitely gameplay, but it was to get to the next part of the story.
I mean, like, I'm obviously like the last time I was into video games was really Nintendo 64 and like the days of GoldenEye.
Right.
So like this is why like video game adaptations really don't have that pull for me because I'm not familiar with them. But like Pedro Pascal, Bella Ramsey, like I'm at least gonna give the show a chance.
Right. So Matthew asks if we will cover it. I assume you're talking about The Last of Us. That depends on if it's good or if I like it or not, honestly. Will I watch it? Yes, I probably will. But like if it's a stinker, I don't want to spend 2 hours trying to find something positive to say about something that I did not enjoy. So like, but if it's good, yeah, probably so. Yeah, you know what? Let's just do a quick mid roll, shall we?
Yep.
Okay. Hi everybody. Thanks for watching. This is YouTube, which means you have to like and subscribe. It's how we feed the algorithm god around here. Also, tell people that like this type of conversation that you know where they can get more of it. Tell them to come over and subscribe to this YouTube channel and to be part of the conversation. I'd really appreciate it. We are on the march to 1,000 still. It's been a slow march, but we're gonna get there, us together. If you're not in our Slack group and you want to be in our Slack group, it's easy to get in there. All you need to do is send me an email to we3dragons@gmail.com. 3 is spelled out. we3dragons@gmail.com. I will get said message and I will extend an invitation for you to join our Slack group. Don't be an asshole, or I will kick you out. We have patrons and they're rad because they're literally dragons. Like nobody can argue the point, you can't prove otherwise. And our dragons, like our first ever dragon was this guy right here, ridiculous Ed Tollett, our alpha patron. He is a great worm dragon because he's awesome like that. Also, Lord John Bronsteen the Wise is also a great worm patron. Thank you, gentlemen, for helping us keep things rolling over here. They are supported by the great elder dragons as well, including the Cloaked One of the Underworld, Ryan Stavka, the Russian Quartermaster, Reflective Rambling, Arch-Maester Emma, Kate, Mistress of the House of Books, Jared Kozal, Doctor of Dragons, Lady Maura Lee of Starfall, and Lady Rita, the Unbound. Don't let them fool you. They might tell you they're regular people, but they're actually dragons. Don't believe it when they tell you otherwise. I'm not trying to call you a liar, but I'm just saying, Anyway,
I am.
but thank you, patrons. If you want to be a patron, there's a link down in the description. And yeah, thanks. So now let's talk about what's coming up on Here Be Dragons. John, do you have something you'd like to talk about soon on Here Be Dragons?
Aside from the plea I just made, which is for us to, at least put on the radar a Bad Batch.
Bad Batch is actually probably something we should get to soon.
Yeah. Aside from that, we're going to talk about it, but I don't think there's any, it's like Star Wars stuff, because Star Wars stuff is coming up.
Yeah, that's coming. But is there something specific that you would like to talk about soon? Apparently, the Bad Batch.
Yeah,
great. I love it. When are we going to talk about Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon on John Webster Film? That's the name of the channel.
Yeah, as soon as I can get myself situated to start back up. Like I said, I was not making an announcement because that puts me in a corner. This is when it's happening. I have to emotionally get to a place where I'm ready to do that, because what I learned over the first nearly 2 years where I was at least semi-consistently doing it, and this well, Stephen, it's stressful to
it is
commit to putting that out every week. And I think what I need to do this time around is plan in certain break periods, and especially because I'm on here as well. It's one thing when you have one thing that you're one stream that you're focused on doing, but trying to juggle I found that out is trying to juggle doing multiple things. It's tough.
It is tough.
So, and I also have a couple revamping things of aspects of it that I want to get squared away. And yeah, but I will, when I'm ready to go, I'll make an announcement, and I'm going to have, and I'll commit to that Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon will be, one of the very first.
Hashtag soon. Yeah. So maybe 2 weeks from now, maybe 3, we talk. I'm not sure if Nessie will want to be a part of Bad Batch conversation or not. But
I know she at least started watching it, so
well, it gives me a couple of weeks to get it watched myself, and I know it's not a huge commitment, so I can definitely do that. But unfortunately, next weekend is already spoken for, because everybody cast your minds back as far as you can. Does anybody remember what the first video they ever watched on my channel was? Do you remember what was the first live thing you ever watched on my channel? John, do you remember the first live thing you watched?
I think the first live thing I watched may have, and I could be wrong, but I seem to recall that it was an interview with Shapes of Thrones.
Okay.
And you had Sanri on there too, doing her art while you guys talked.
So it was and I Know That Nerd, which I have not done much of this last year. Well, next week is an I Know That Nerd. Almost 4 years in the making. So I see. Okay, not live. I got you. Not live, though. Not live. But yeah, in April 2019, I did my first ever like live stream thing, that was like it's the first official video on Here Be Dragons is I Know That Nerd with Sanrixian. And next week is going to be I Know That Nerd even better than I used to with Sanrixian. And that is something that I have been looking forward to doing for a long, long, long time. Just waiting for the right timing of everything to fall into place. You guys know I love that woman to death. She is currently not feeling great, so hopefully we don't have to move it. But, that is coming. I am probably more hyped about it than anyone. But, like, if you want to go back and watch that old live stream with Sanri and then pick it apart and ask me stupid questions about it, please feel free. But, like, when I did that stream with her, she hadn't even stole my baby yet.
There's things to answer for.
Right. Crimes to be uncovered. But yeah, so I'm just super hyped about that. Next week is I Know That Nerd even better than I used to. So
that's great. I can't wait for that.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun.
Also because, and I should probably blame myself a little bit for this because I think outside of, because I've kind of pulled back from some of the other Slack groups I'm a part of. Things have been hectic, but I feel like I haven't talked with Sanri in a bit, so it'll be great to be in the chat,
right?
And while you chat with her, and then so that'll be fun.
Yeah, I think so. I think it'll be great fun. There's yeah, she's like my little sister. It's going to be a bunch of ridiculous shenanigans. So I really hope you guys can join us for that. Yeah, for two idiots being idiots for a couple hours. I think that's good for a mid-roll, but it also kind of naturally flows into another topic that I want to cover, which is something that I want to do that I haven't done yet. It's not going to be something I do a whole bunch of, but I have been a game nerd my whole life, and some of the games that I have played and loved throughout my life have deep, interesting lore. And a lot of them do not have any sort of decent screen representation for that lore. They might have a video game adaptation that's good or something like that, but not a really good sort of narrative storytelling television show, movie, what have you. And I kind of want to do the series where I talk about these different intellectual properties that I really like that haven't had adaptations and how I think they might be adapted to make a good show. It's doable. Again, I'm not going to beat this drum too hard, but Arcane took a video game with no narrative to the game itself, mm-hmm. and created a fantastic storytelling experience with that. So it can be done, and I think it'd be fun to talk about the various lores that I love that I think are rife for film and television adaptations. The real thing that sets this off is the Henry Cavill news that he's separating from DC and he's separated from The Witcher, and he wants to focus on making television in the Warhammer 40K universe. And people are like, what is that? And I'm like, I've played stupid games in this universe since the 80s. I can tell you all about it. Yeah.
Side note, meanwhile, I'm over here. I'm like, no, Henry, you've already said you're gonna do Highlander. Focus on that.
Right.
But he should
come and talk about Highlander. You know, like that's fine too. I can't talk about Highlander the way you can, especially not the TV show. But like
Yeah.
that's just a week off for me.
Hmm.
You know, and there's somebody out there that wants to come on and talk with you about it.
Yeah, I did want to say, like, this is sort of, I think it's adjacent to, you know, the topic you're talking about like lores that haven't really had a shot at like proper film and television adaptations. I think there was like an attempt at like a cheap animated movie like decades ago, but you know, speaking of like Dungeons and Dragons, it's connected to that the Dragonlance stories,
Mm-hmm.
which
Oh, and those are so good.
yeah,
Can you imagine
and
if they
like when
adapted
I was
Dragon?
in that like middle period of like after I'd read Lord of the Rings and I was searching for some other fantasy stories to read before I ended up coming across the Song of Ice and Fire, like Dragonlance was the things that I got to. I know it's, you know, there's derivative stuff and you know all that, but I loved those characters. Um, you know, I had that love hate relationship with Raceland, you know,
Briefly.
who's just a phenomenal character.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would love to see that given a chance in some form for an adaptation because I think that would have really, really great potential.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And that is one of the sort of intellectual properties or brands or whatever that I would like to discuss is what Dungeons and Dragons stories do I think would make good adaptations? What from the 40K universe do I think would be good? And part of that is I get to show off my lore nerd and this is what 40K is and blah blah blah, you know, and these are some lore nuggets, but really the point is we talk about pop culture content, you know, we talk about television and movies for the most part. And I would like to talk about television and movies that I want to see made, which is not a thing we've done
Mm-hmm.
much of. But yeah, the real kicker was, ooh, who do I want Henry Cavill to play in the Warhammer 40K universe? What does that story look like? You know? And I think there's a really fun conversation to have, especially if I come into it with some lore knowledge and you're like, I don't know anything. But but like I know what I like storytelling wise, and ooh, that sounds like it could be interesting or not, and you know, anyway, it could be a lot of fun. It is something I've thought about wanting to do, and I am curious as to what the the viewership thinks of that idea. Is this a good idea to listen to me wax poetic about why I love a intellectual property that most of y'all are probably not familiar with? I don't know if that sounds like fun or not. You know what I mean?
And well, what's interesting about that is, and the last, oh my God, man, my
You've never looked better, my
this
friend.
this plug is getting really sensitive for some reason. It's copying an attitude with me, Steven.
Yeah.
No, what I was not to sort of hijack the the idea because you could also take this like beyond just you know like things that haven't like properties that haven't been developed yet but you know there's all kinds of like ideas for like shows and films that like I want to see for even more established properties. We could get really nerdy and like spend time doing
Like
that as
what would
well.
I like to see in Star Wars or Star Trek?
Yeah,
Or yeah, I got you. I got you. That could be fun too.
yeah.
It's a funny thing. Potter says he looks out his balcony, he sees a cinema and a Games Workshop. Games Workshop has their own storefronts. That is the company that owns the intellectual property of Warhammer 40K. So apparently, there is a 40K store next to a movie theater that Potter can see from his balcony. So they're not that far apart, is what he's telling me.
But I
Although, would I
will
maybe
say, you
like
know, it's funny because that is like the one like I think that's the one sort of Dungeons and Dragons conversation like that I could really get into, and it would give me an excuse to revisit those novels as well. I would love to have a Dragonlance like stream with you.
I would have to reread them as well. It's been since high school, literally since high school.
Yeah.
And sometimes, like, I'd read Dritz Stewart novels as well, and sometimes I can't remember which characters from which arc. You know?
Yeah, I have, like, I know that I remember that the first trilogy, you know, does have some like and again, I'm not like bad mouthing. Like, there's certainly derivative elements of, like, you know, Lord of the Rings and stuff like that. I remember absolutely adoring the second trilogy, which involves, I think, like time travel with Raceland and Caramon to the Cataclysm. And the fact that I remember this stuff at all is amazing because it's been years. But yeah, so that was, but I've got so much to read. Probably the last thing I need to be thinking about is going back to Dragon.
Going back to something, but you know what? It might be fun. Might be fun to do.
Yeah.
Dragonlance kept Dungeons and Dragons alive for a little while. Those Dragonlance novels, when the game was probably at its lowest selling point, it was those novels that kept the doors open at TSR.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, there has not been a good. The Legend of Vox Machina is technically a Dungeons and Dragons adaptation, but it is not. It's not part of their IP, and like in the animated show, they really have scratched the serial numbers off of a lot of the D&D branded stuff as well. You know, like, there are creatures that are unique to D&D that are not in Vox Machina, even if they were the original tabletop game. They changed them just enough that there's no copyright, you know. So I don't really consider that a D&D adaptation, because D&D does have things like Displacer Beasts and Gelatinous Cubes and specific spell effects and specific cosmology and specific characters like Raceland and Caramon Majir or Dritz or Elminster. And it could be a really fun conversation to talk about who do I want to play Caramon Majir and Raceland and Gold Moon, you know, and Tanis Half Elven. Like, that would be a fun conversation to have. Just a fan cast, you know, the Dragonlance crew.
Oh man, I would have, like, that would be so much fun. Like, I mean, like, the fan casting, yes, but like, just imagine a world in which, like, that it's being made into a series and we're waiting for the casting announcements. Like, I would just be so, like, glued to my computer waiting for, you know, announcements of who's playing those characters, because, like, even though it's been years, like, a lot of those characters are, like, imprinted, you know, in my mind in a way that I would just get so excited by or furious about who was getting cast. It would be really interesting to see where they would go with that. But I do want to, like, comment on, you know, you asking, like, you know, would people be interested in this? And I just go back to the fact that, you know, your tagline for this channel has always been nerds talking nerdy things.
Right.
Like, you know, I love this idea, Stephen.
Okay, great. Well, somewhere in the not too distant future, and we'll probably do a, like, WTF is Warhammer 40K, where I talk about the lore and try to make people understand why I love it, because it's ridiculous, but I love it. But it seems like it'd be fun to try to convey why I love it, and then to talk about what I would like to see from either a big screen adaptation or, like, a long-term series. Because I think I would want different things from the two of them, you know? But yeah, okay, so John, What? Any other movies from anything else from last?
I'm glad.
Perhaps?
I'm glad that you asked. Well, first of all, I do want to go into like talking about TV shows from last year, but before we hit that, I did want to mention a couple more movies that I didn't mention because I was like kind of focused on like one of my top 5 movies, but there's movies outside of that which I loved. Most recently, it's in the culture zeitgeist right now, but Glass Onion, I just loved. Very different from Knives Out, sillier, and
I preferred Knives Out. Not gonna lie, I preferred Knives Out, but I liked Glass
Onion. But it's so absurd, and they were just like, man, Daniel Craig as Benoit Blanc is just like. It has just become one of my favorite characters.
And the thing is, they get amazing actors to play every role.
Yeah.
Yeah. Dave Bautista was fantastic.
And that's the thing. Like,
he makes me laugh so much.
Dave Bautista, like, I cannot sing his praises enough. That is a man who, like, and I want to see him given like he's gotten great roles,
like a real meaty role. Yeah,
exactly.
I think he's proven that he could take whatever you gave him. You could slap an ugly Christmas sweater on him, give him a mug of hot cocoa, and he could be a dad in a Hallmark movie, and he could pull it off, guaranteed.
Yeah.
Dave Bautista, the guy that played Drax, yes. That guy is a thespian. That guy is an actor's actor. He studied the craft. I guarantee it.
I will say, like, and minor spoilers. I won't say who says these lines, but like, I just, I will never tire of hearing, it's so dumb. It's so dumb. It's brilliant. No, it's just dumb. It's so great.
One of my favorite lines from the first movie was, "That was the dumbest car chase of all time."
Yeah.
What a line.
So, and aside from that, also Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio was just
that's high on my list right now.
It's so good, and it's funny because the first time I tried to watch it, I tried to turn it on later at night, and it just so happened that it was one of the occasions when I was feeling really emotional, and like the beginning of the movie is really sad.
Yeah,
like, I won't go into why, but so I had to actually turn it off because it was so affecting. And then a couple days later, I turned it back on. I was like, this is just fantastic, and it brings something so so different. It separates itself from the Disney film. And
well, there's like 3 or 4 different adaptations of Pinocchio this year alone. But the one
I'm not even seeing the Disney remake.
Well, and then there was a Pauly Shore one as well, which was apparently a disaster.
Really, I'm shocked. That sounds like a winner.
But like, I have heard a lot of buzz about the Guillermo del Toro Pinocchio, and let's be honest, Guillermo is he's an artiste. He crafts his film. And so, like, yeah, I'm interested to. It's definitely on my list. I'm interested to watch it.
And one of the thing that blew me away, because I didn't read who was in the cast except for I knew Ewan McGregor was playing. In this version, he's called Sebastian, the cricket.
Not Jiminy Cricket.
Yeah. So I knew that he was in it, but I didn't really know any of the other cast members. So I was blown away. I'm listening. I'm watching the movie and I'm listening to Geppetto, and all of a sudden I realize, oh my God, it's Walder Frey. But he's David Bradley plays Geppetto, and you love him. He's like, he's so great in the role. And you've also got Tilda Swinton, Christoph Waltz, Kate Blanchett, although you won't know it's her. she plays a monkey.
Nice.
So the whole time she's just making like screeching noises and stuff. So it's great.
You know what? I love that. I love that you like. It's one of my favorite gags to get a huge actor to do the smallest possible part. This is my favorite thing about Deadpool 2 was the reveal that Brad Pitt was the Invisible Man, and you saw him for like half a second as he's dying. Like, that was my favorite gag in the whole movie. I love that stupid. It's funny.
Yeah, so that was fantastic. And the other one, I'm going to shock you guys with this, and you're not going to agree with me because I know you weren't that fond of it, ironically. And this is like, I can't believe I'm saying this. I'm not saying like that I would put it up for a Best Picture award, but for entertaining movies that I've gone back to several times, Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
I have watched that several times this year, and it's like I've had so much fun revisiting
our journey through the Marvel fandom together, you and I. It's like we're on the same roller coaster at two different points in time.
Yeah. Just because like I loved, and I feel like I'm going into it with like different, like I'm looking for different things because like I think the performances are all great, but I love Sam Raimi's direction, and like one of the things, also the cinematography is great. One of the issues I've had with certain other Marvel films is like the color palette of the cinematography. Multiverse of Madness is just a gorgeous film to look at. Just the camera work, and like you look at the colors, there's like I love when you've got the scene with Professor X where he's in Wanda's mind, and it's just like the stark white background, and then you've got the red smoke billowing in, and Danny Elfman's score, like that scene when the two Doctor Stranges are going at each other with musical notes.
I don't remember. That movie was entirely forgettable to me.
Wow.
Which is so funny. Like, that this is where we are now.
And I love the fact that the movie was much more standalone than I actually expected. I thought it was going to be like a big event film for Marvel, like on the scale of like the Avengers or something, with all this different multiversal stuff. But actually what it ended up being is a character study for Doctor Strange. It was kind of much more low key, and I actually really responded to that. So
I mean, you see, Sean agrees with you. He liked it a lot. And
yeah.
you're not alone in your assessment either. It just wasn't mine,
I mean, I certainly had like gripes. Like I think they did Professor X dirty in the movie. I've been waiting for that for a while.
You want John Krasinski to be Reed Richards? Here you go.
But at the same time, I think like these are all like teases. Like they're setting the stage for these characters to integrate into the MCU for real. So like I get it, but they weren't doing, and that was like initially I pulled back from the movie a bit because I wanted this to do for like Professor X what Spider-Man No Way From Home did for like the previous Peter Parkers, and it wasn't doing that. But I ended up going back to the movie for different reasons than just like the X-Men factor of it all.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what surprised me about it, is that I was really responding to those things. And like, I just loved how like it was such a Sam Raimi movie. There's like, later on when Strange, inhabits the dead version of himself, and then like there's this moment where he says to Wanda, something like, "This time you're gonna have to do more than kill me to kill me," and then you cut back to what's the character's name. His I don't want to say this is all
Long?
she is, but his love interest in the films.
Amy Adams plays Christine, I think is her name.
No, it's not Amy Adams, but Christine is the character's name.
You're right. It's Rachel McAdams.
Rachel McAdams.
There you go.
And
McAdams.
so anyway, he says, this time you have to do more than kill me to kill me. And it cuts back to her and she's like this freaked out look. It's like, it's all very like weird Sam Raimi, like horror vibes and all this stuff. So I don't know. It just really ticked a lot of boxes for me. So
I'm really glad that you enjoy it. Again,
yeah.
I don't hate on anybody for enjoying what they enjoy. But that movie's not mine. It kind of blows my mind to hear me. It blows my mind to hear you speak so effusively about it.
Yeah, I know.
But hey, I'm glad you got something you like it. Happy for you. I did not love that movie.
Yeah, but it's I do find that utterly hilarious. So yeah, that's like.
So would you say that Doctor Strange has been personally victimized by Regina George?
There's a universe out there where that is exactly what happened. But yeah, no, that's so funny.
What else am I looking forward to? Oh, we briefly mentioned Dune coming out later in the year, but that was right before our mid-roll. So yeah, Dune. It's probably the film that's going to really. A lot of times I wait to watch stuff, but Dune might drag me back to the theater. Have you seen Way of Water yet? I hear it's really good.
I have, but I need to see it again because. Oh man, we could do a whole stream me talking about the technical aspects of the movie because it's not one of my top movies yet because I saw it in high frame rate, which it's funny because I was one of the few who actually really liked that format for the Hobbit films. But the problem is the way James Cameron uses it in this movie is that he uses it intermittently. Like he uses high frame rate for like the fast-paced action moments and like the underwater scenes, but if it's like people just talking, he uses traditional 24 frames per second. And I found that really disorienting. Like it kept pulling me out of the movie. So even though I enjoyed the movie, I felt like I was never really ever able to settle into it. So I do want to see it again, maybe in traditional 3D, without that. So I'm putting that one on hold and we'll see how I feel about it.
I haven't seen it, but I am surprised to hear as many people speaking positively about it as there are.
I'm not because people forget that and people and I'm not talking about people on Twitter and the internet. The first film was such an enormous hit, and people who went to the cinema, really enjoyed the movie and loved it. And the same thing is happening here. It's as much as, online we can see people making snide comments about it. People are going in droves to see it.
Yeah. And I will never bet against James Cameron.
Yeah.
It's a fool's bet, but as somebody who, I look at the first Avatar film and I'm like, a technical marvel. From a storytelling standpoint, it's nothing special. Not really.
And I will say that's kind of how I felt about this one, which is and I went nuts for the first one because of the technical marvel. And we have to remember that not that 3D was the brand new technology, but it hadn't been used in that way.
Hats off to
really. And for and for the motion capture and all that, it was groundbreaking. And so I really did go nuts for the first one. A little less so in years since, but I did it. There was a period where I still had a 3D TV and I bought the 3D Blu-ray and I was like, there's that magic I remember, because there was something special about that experience. And so like, so I went into this one, and again, like I said, kind of got pulled out by the technology used, like for the frame rate. So I want to see it again. The fact that I want to see it again says, you know, it's an entertaining movie. But it didn't have the same the novelty of the experience of what the first one was. So like, so I'm in both camps. Like it's a very entertaining, like, you know, popcorn escapism film with like phenomenal visual effects and all that. So I get why people are enjoying it. At the same time, I'm like, it does kind of surprise me how effusive, you know,
Right.
some
See, that's
people
where
are.
I'm at. Like,
Yeah.
I expected people to come out and say it's gorgeous,
Mm-hmm.
but people are saying that the story is really good, the acting is really good. So
And like, and the performances are like, it's got great performances, and like, and I don't think it's a bad story. Like, but it's just like you're kind of like, it's what I would have expected an Avatar to be. So the fact that, you know, for a lot of people there seems to be this like but I feel like this is the thing, people enjoyed the first one whether they want to remember that or not. And no, I'm not saying everybody, but a lot of people did enjoy it. So I feel like it's only natural that they would enjoy the sequel. But I just feel like in the time in between, a lot of people got off on the whole, oh, the movie is overrated. People love to be negative online. I'm just saying.
like, and I'm not trying to crap on it, but like,
I mean, yeah, I'm not talking about you. I just like
yeah, I got you. I saw Avatar and it was gorgeous, and then I watched it again and I'm like, eh, like the story doesn't get me. But I'm a, you know me, I love deep, complicated story. That's why I prefer, generally speaking, the television format over the film format.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it lets you tell a longer format story with deeper character development and all that stuff. But
I actually think the script for this one is a bit better.
okay,
The first one, like, once you're not wowed by, like, once you get over like the technical marvel of it, it does have a couple dialogue moments where it's like, it's not great. So I feel like the script was a bit better for this one, but at the same time, it's not some revolutionary story that like blew me away. So I don't know. Like, I enjoyed the movie. It's not one of my top movies of the year.
okay. I just was curious because I figured you probably had seen it.
Yeah. So, and as far as like, I feel like I think we have had like conversations about the television shows of last year, but I will say, like, I've just kind of finally settled on, like, I've got my 4 shows that like thrilled me in different ways, and I keep like bouncing back and forth, and I'm sort of tired of trying to nail down what I enjoyed the most. And
We don't have to have a favorite. You don't.
Okay, but I mean, those shows at the end of the day were
Hot D. We haven't mentioned it yet, but I've got to bring up Hot D because it was great. It was a great show. Really thoroughly enjoyed it. Really looking forward to season 2.
Yeah. Just like, and I feel like it kind of got, like, in the aftermath of the show, it kind of got lost in the mix of, you know, me talking about other shows. But since I've been revisiting it, you know, I bought the 4K edition, physical media, guys. Pick up your copy. But I'm like, holy crap, this was like fantastic, you know, and really well done. So
What
So
specifically? I'm sorry, maybe I missed that.
House of the Dragon, and
Oh, okay.
like
Yeah.
so there's for me there was Sandman, Andor, and Rings of Power are like my four shows that I just adored and like and just like they ticked certain boxes at like different points, and they were what I needed from them, at their various times. And I was just rewatching the finale of Andor last night, and oh my god, what a great show that is.
Matthew, I'm just wondering what that favorite character is. I could guess, but I'm just gonna guess Daemon Targaryen. Uh, Matt Damon, Matt Smith, Daemon Targaryen. Yeah, but I literally called him Matt Damon during the stream.
No, I like one of my favorite characters of the year really was Viserys. Just like a very imperfect man, to
but
be sure.
had so much pathos to him.
Yeah.
Like you could really feel genuine empathy for him, despite the fact that like there's a time or two where you're like, "What a shithead! Why are you? Don't know." But
yeah.
But at the same time, you felt sympathy. Very human character.
Yeah, I've gone on about like the timing of watching episode 8, and with him being on death's door and not remembering things, and how that sort of clicked with me with the things going on in my life, and then like the catharsis of watching him make that long walk in the throne room. It's like it's probably the most emotional any episode of a show made me this year. So
yeah. Sean brings up Sandman and Moon Knight. We're going to differ on Moon Knight, Sean. It was not one of my favorites. It was fine, but Sandman really was excellent.
Yeah, no, it's like,
yeah, and I've heard you talk about Sandman, John.
I adore Sandman, and all the more because it was something new for me. I was not familiar with the graphic novels, and so that was really like my new adventure for the year, because all the other shows that I loved were properties I was familiar with, but Sandman was new territory, and yeah, it's just so good.
Yeah. Oof. You know what? I kind of think you're right. Marvel is very good at making fine.
And I'll actually like I agree with that sentiment. Like I know and our back and forth just feeds my this is the one area where I like to troll. But I actually don't think I'll go on about MCU is horrible. I don't really think that. I think that's correct.
It's the meme that you hate the MCU, but that's the meme.
Yeah, I just think that's it's good. Like their stuff is good. I'm just never blown away oh my god, that was so amazing. And so
except a certain Spider-Man film. Yeah, every once in a while they do manage to get you. I got you.
Yeah, no, and everybody I did actually it was on here. I think it was during your hiatus. I did stream on Spider-Man No Way From Home with Kelly. That was my workaround where I didn't have to do it on my channel. I got to stick with
Yeah.
Again, like here's
like
the
a year
meme.
ago at this point, wasn't it?
Yeah, here's the meme at work again, where I'm like, I'm not going to do an MCU movie on my channel,
Right.
But no, I love that one.
So I'll just do it on somebody else. Yeah, I like it. Or on, yeah, the other one, not mine, the one that's kind of mine, but not the one that's just mine. Keep that crap off of there. That's funny. Yeah. Anything else you're looking forward to coming up? Arcane season 2 is theoretically going to be out by the end of the year, so I'm super hyped about that. Also, there is one thing that has come out in the last year that I am like teetering on the edge of watch, don't watch, and that is Willow.
I understand. I still have only watched the first 2 episodes. I haven't been super thrilled by, and you and I have talked about the reasons for that. I don't know how you're gonna feel about it, but
I don't know either. I'm scared.
Yeah, I understand your apprehension.
Yep. Kartik says Oppenheimer, which yeah,
any Christopher Nolan movie I'm on board for.
Yep. And what's the actor's name who's playing Oppenheimer? Cillian
Murphy.
Yes, there you go. He's good. He's a good actor. Oppenheimer is a very interesting person. Never was very against nuclear proliferation, but also continued to stand by the use of nuclear weapons when they were actually used to help end the war. So complex man, and not firmly in the pro-nuclear or anti-nuclear camps, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen it mentioned a few times. This Barbie movie. Look, anything is possible. Anything is possible. And it is Margot Robbie who looks enough like a Barbie doll to pull it off and is a good enough actress to, I think, play any part you put in front of her.
And it's Margot Robbie.
She's beautiful. And it's also got, Ryan Gosling in it. Which
for some reason I just find it hilarious that he's playing Ken. Like,
fantastic actor, love it, love the casting,
and directed by Greta Gerwig, who is a phenomenal director.
We'll see. Am I hyped for the Barbie movie? No, I am not. But do I hope it's good? Of course I do.
I'm just in I'm not hyped for it, but I'm actually really interested to see what it is.
I don't even know if I'm interested, but that's okay. You know, if
it's curious about what it what is the movie
right?
What's it gonna be? You know,
I haven't watched. Of
course, they did pique my interest with parodying the opening sequence of 2001 with the trailer. That's the way to my heart.
Yeah, I don't even think I think I've seen promotional stills.
Okay.
So I haven't even seen a trailer or a teaser or anything, you know? But hey, I hope it's good. And if it's actually really good, people will tell me and I'll watch it, you know? But I am not somebody who's chomping at the bit for the Barbie movie. I'm just not. Despite the fact that it has actors who I really like. But, if it turns out to be good, we'll get there.
Well, because, it got announced. I'm like, really? But,
I've been wrong. Look, I've been proven wrong before. I'm totally willing for that to be the case with this as well. but I actually think it's going to kind of be a cheesy. I don't know though. When you get Ryan Gosling and God, we just said her name,
Margot Robbie.
Margot Robbie, like that's a lot of sexy and a lot of talent, acting talent. So I don't know. Maybe it's going to be great.
Yeah, we'll see. Other stuff I'm looking forward to, I kind of mentioned under umbrella, Star Wars in general, but we've got The Mandalorian coming up this year, season 3, as well as Ahsoka. So a lot of the Mandoverse stuff this year. So but I'm interested to see how it plays after we've had Andor, which is was a much more dramatic, look at the Star Wars galaxy, and the Mandoverse is sort of, much more, he's even described it this way as kind of like Jon Favreau playing with his, action figures type of, like, and getting into the lore of, Star Wars, and has a lot in common with, like, obviously Dave Filoni's, animated shows, which obviously I love, but Andor was such a grounded approach, so it's going to be interesting to see how these shows feel in the aftermath of that.
Yeah, I'm cautiously optimistic about the Ahsoka show. Cautiously optimistic. And again, John, you talk about the Mandoverse. It's a very specific flavor, and Andor was quite different from that flavor. And I preferred Andor for the most part.
Yeah, I'm always very, like, cautious not to, like, because I hate the thing where, now, like, it seems like every time a new Star Wars show comes out, like, it's being pitted against the other Star Wars shows, and I hate that. But at the same time, like, Andor,
if every new show or film has to redefine what Star Wars is while continuing to be what Star Wars always was.
Yeah. But at the same time, I'm like, Andor is kind of the type of thing that I wanted from Star Wars television. Like, so like, I'm in this awkward place of, like, yeah, that's kind of what I want, but I don't want that to diminish the other shows, which I've enjoyed them all to varying degrees. So yeah, so we'll see. I am hopeful. Like, we're 3 seasons into The Mandalorian, so I'd like to see the scope of that show kind of expand. Yeah, and we'll see. Ahsoka is going to be a tough one because I have such an emotional connection to Ashley Eckstein's vocal performance as Ahsoka, and I haven't yet fully gotten on board with Rosario Dawson's take, but she hasn't really had a chance to like fully dive into it. Like, she's just been a guest star on The Mandalorian and Book of Boba Fett. So,
or 2 episodes now.
Yeah.
1 Mando, 1 Book of Boba Fett.
Yeah, so I'm open to it, but at the same time, I'm kind of like, couldn't we have had this show in animation?
Yeah,
because it really is it. Because it does look like it's shaping up to be a sequel show to Star Wars Rebels. And
have you heard talk that there's going to be time travel in the Ahsoka show?
No, but I've been staying away from, like,
that's a theory that's going around right
theories
now.
And rumors and stuff, because like, if stuff turns out to be true, then I'm mad that I read about it because it spoils it, and then if it's not true, like, it sets up expectations. So I just stay away from that stuff.
Right.
But yeah.
Well, you know what? We're about at the 2-hour mark anyway. So this is good a place as any to kind of start putting a bow on it, don't you think?
Yeah, just to round things out, is because we talked a bit about life stuff as well. Looking forward to going back to Ice and Fire Con this year, seeing everybody. And I, it'd be nice to have that experience because I feel like I'll be kind of, still going to be having sad feels for the stuff that has transpired in my personal life, but also there might also be less stress involved because I was having I was worrying about a lot of stuff when I was
Mm-hmm.
there last year. And so even though I'm grieving, I'm not presently, like stressing about things like, I'll just say it plainly, like my sorry, I ran out of water. um my mom was in the assisted living facility at the time, and so I was thinking a lot about her and worrying about how she was doing. And so even though this year I'll be grieving for my loss, but I'm not gonna have to worry about like how she's doing. She's, we can get into. I'm not gonna go into conversations about like, you know, where I feel she is and spirituality and all that stuff. But I
Right.
trust that, you know, that she's in a better place now, and so I don't have to worry about the stress of day to day. How is she doing in the facility? Is she, stuff like, is she gonna, you know who I am when I come back and all that stuff. Sorry, I'm bringing it down, guys, uh, but it's just good to know that maybe I'll be able to let myself feel a bit freer, you know, this year, and hopefully not worry about that stuff.
I hope so too. Again, moving forward together, man.
Mm-hmm.
I had a not great 2022 as well, but we're both here at the beginning of a whole new year. Let's go.
Yeah.
And Peter Griffin did ask me about what was my game of the year. We didn't really talk about that. Um, I've gotten to where I really don't play as much video games as I used to. Although, if you want a recommendation, I had of a game that I found this year that was really fun. There's a game I played a little bit called Vampire Survivors, which was it's a really fun top down sort of like bullet hell. It's a fun game. It's a fun little shooty game, top down shooter. So Vampire Survivors. Also really enjoyed a game called Star Valor, another top down shooter, but in building up your spaceship. Yeah, so if you're interested in either of in that type of game, Star Valor or Vampire Survivors were probably what I played most. Other than that, I played big time strategy games like Crusader Kings and whatnot. But yeah, John, did you play anything fun this year? No, you're not
No.
really much of a gamer, even
No.
less so than me.
Yeah.
But you want to know my real game of the year? Dungeons and Dragons. I played more D&D than anything. Let's be honest. Yeah. Hey, you want to play Dungeons and Dragons with me?
Oh, looks like Steven hit that back button again. He'll be back in a second.
Oh, I did it again. Do you see this button right here? If I accidentally click that when I go to grab my mouse, it's like hitting the back on the browser. So I went to grab my mouse and disappeared. Yeah, if you want to play D&D with me, all you got to do is join my Slack group. Send me an email, we3dragons@gmail.com. I'll play D&D with you. I already play D&D with a lot of people. A lot of people. And even if you can't get in on one of my games immediately, somebody's got room in one of their games somewhere. I know a lot of people that play as well. So yeah, you want to? That's my game of the year though, D&D. Although I have a theory that it will not be my game of the year next year because I'm going to try to branch out into other games. But yeah, okay, cool. Any last comments, John?
Just want to apologize for my late arrival today.
Hey, man.
That was embarrassing.
I've done it.
But I still had a lot of fun having this talk with you, and I can't wait to watch next week's stream. That's going to be so much fun. So yeah, just thank you as always, Stephen. And
of course. Thanks for being here, buddy.
Yeah.
Better late. Oh, you know what? There. That's better.
Made sure you put me in my place. I understand.
Well, you're on the right side of the screen from my perspective, which is the right side,
Yeah.
Look, you were fashionably delayed. You are in demand. You got here as soon as you could. But yeah, so yeah, come back next week. It'll just be me and Sanrixian, and we'll be talking about our crazy, we'll be interviewing her. Go back and watch the OG I Know That Nerd with Sanrixian and come up with even more interesting questions for the lady. Yeah, so look forward to seeing you all then. But until then, I think you know what it is. Peace and
be excellent to each other.
You got it. We'll see you guys next week.